Welcome to Courtside Sessions, the show designed to help junior tennis players, parents, and coaches maximize their game. I'm Diadem Kev, and on the show today, we're going to hear from an author, speaker, and entrepreneur who specializes in leadership and mindset coaching. He's also the parent of a top junior tennis player who's currently going through the recruiting process. I'm excited to have J.M. Ryerson join us right here in the Courtside Sessions studio in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Without further ado, we're here with J.M. Ryerson. How are you feeling today, J.M.?
Brother, I'm blessed to be here. Thanks for the introduction, and to be at Diadem, see what you guys are putting together. This is pretty cool. I'm glad you're sharing all the amazing, tips that you guys have, the gear. So it's cool.
I love that. And I think it would be a great, just quick intro on your family. I know you got a couple boys and your wife too. Tell us a little bit about them right now and what they're up to.
Yeah, so I have two sons, as you know. TJ, my oldest, is a 17-year-old. He is right in that mix of recruiting right now. He is, a 10.6, I guess, UTR right now, which is a little lower than he was hoping for, but he's in that grind right now and recruiting for college. Trey, my youngest, 13-year-old, plays baseball, and he's he's awesome. My wife played tennis in college, so that's kind of where that came from. I played basketball, so that was nothing to do with that. But yeah, man, that's our family. We've been in South Florida for almost 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And yeah, it's been an awesome fit with you guys. You've treated my family so well.
I love that. And it's been very cool to work with your family. Since day one that I've been on the Diadem campus, we've seen the Ryersons around, and they always bring so much energy when they come to the office to get TJ's rackets tuned up. And then JM's also a very good pickleball player. Talk a little bit about how you got into that game.
Well, it's actually how I found you guys. So I was playing pickleball one day, and I saw this paddle that I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's Diadem. I was like, I've never heard of it. Find out you guys are close to us. I come in, and immediately the culture of this organization I just loved. It fits. It's very cool. You guys have great products, and then all of a sudden I look over and they have this awesome tennis area where you can put on the little, what do you call them?
Yeah, the nodes. The
nodes,
mm-hmm.
And you literally treat these kids like they're top 10 in the world. Even though it's not, the Babylons would never do that for someone, or the Wilson. No offense against them, but you guys treat these kids like they're top 10. And the moment I saw that, I was like, all right, TJ, I want you to come try out these rackets. Well, the moment that TJ came and picked up your rackets, his first was, I don't know, Dad, I've never heard of Diadem. I was like, I get it, but look how, innovative this is. Look at the technology. So he fell in love with it, and that's how he started, using your guys' stuff. And for me, pickleball, yeah, man, I'm Team Diadem all the way. I have an Edge. I have soon the 18K, several of the icons, the twos. I mean, I have all your gear because I love it.
That's awesome. And were you a racket sport player? I know you mentioned you played basketball. How'd you get into the racket sport games?
No, I'm not. So actually how I got into it, we were back in Northern California, and I was looking at a new gym to go to because TJ was rapidly getting better to where I couldn't hit with him anymore. So I was going to go get tennis lessons, and I go to this gym, and they said, hey, have you ever heard of pickleball? I've never heard of that. So this was probably 7 years ago, maybe 8. So she takes me back to this area, and it's a mini tennis court. And I'm like, what is this? Well, play one time, and I fell in love. And so much so that I actually built a court in my backyard in California before we left. That's how much I'm obsessed with this game. I'm not playing a lot right now because I'm having my shoulder replaced soon, but it's just the greatest game. I think anyone can play pickleball, even if you don't have a background. So no, my background's not any other sport, but tennis or ping pong. None of those were really my games, but pickleball is just something I fell in love with.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that sport growing, and the connection that I think it's been able to make for a lot of parents like you who don't have the racket sport background, and now they're able to get out there, play some pickleball, get on the court with their kids that are tennis players, and have kind of a bonding experience that way. Do you find that that's true?
100%. Well, so my wife, if I were to play her in tennis, she's going to smoke me. Again, she was a very good player in college. My son, if I were to even consider stepping on the tennis. Like, I don't have a chance. Pickleball, because if you're a decent athlete, you can get out there and compete. And it's so social. You're having a great time, talking trash, trying to hit each other. So it's just, we have found both, for socially in the neighborhood and our family, it's been awesome because all of us can go play. You're going to sweat without even thinking about it. So, yeah, we play quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for all the families out there. When your junior players have reached that level where you can't hit with them anymore, I think pickleball is a great option to get out there and stay on the court with them and still have some fun.
It doesn't last long, so we're clear. Once these kids go, it's like tennis players are so freaking good at pickleball. That's the crazy thing. But it is a good way to get out there and just meet people, man.
Yeah, and then so having not come from a racket sport background, how are you able to sort of leverage all of the lessons and things that you learned as a college basketball player and your time coming up in athletics when you're working with your sons?
So I'm a performance leadership and mindset coach. I actually work with athletes. And so I have that background, even though I may not, let's say golf. I work with some professional golfers. I'm like a 15 handicap, so I'm not a great golfer. But when it comes to the mindset, I have the fundamentals that, apply whether it's in business or with racket sports or with baseball for my youngest son. So that's really how I've gone about it, is just working with them on more of the mindset side, because it's interesting. You see these kids, man, they are out there grinding physically. So they are putting in hours and hours physically, but the mental side is not focused on as much as I would like to see it. And so that's where I spend a lot of time with my kids, where TJ's meditating, he's journaling, he does breath work every day. He's doing the work outside of just the court, which applies to not only his sport, but every day. So that's how I've kind of approached it, is to say, I don't know anything about tennis. I do, but, not the way he does. But let's talk about, you just, lost a match. You're up, I don't know, 5-0, and you ended up losing that set. Why did that happen? Were you thinking about the outcome? And so often you see these kids put so much pressure on themselves when they don't have to. If you focus on the shot, not the outcome, good things happen. So that's kind of how I've approached it with my kids.
Yeah, that's great stuff that you're able to take everything you're doing in your professional world and apply it with your kids and your family in general. I know you spoke a little bit about some of those fundamentals that you have for your mindset coaching practice. What are those that you're really pushing with TJ?
So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Ben Franklin said this a long time ago, but it's true. If you don't have a plan for when you get into that match, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to make mistakes. And so what I've tried to teach him is perfection is the enemy of greatness. What I mean by that, you're not going to play a perfect tennis match. That's not the way it works. You're going to make mistakes. You have to be prepared for when you make a mistake that it's not a big deal, that you're not carrying that into the next game, the next point, the rest of the match. And most of these junior players, they don't learn these skills. So that's where some of the meditation work comes in, because I want him to be calm and respond, not react. But he's not taught that at the academies typically. There are some academies that have mindset coaches, but they're not doing a lot of that extra work with meditation or journaling or just being able to look outside of the court. What are you doing to prepare? So some of the fundamentals are those, is like, all right, you lost that match. Let's give yourself 5 minutes to have that mental breakdown where you're just upset. And then let's talk about how you can improve next time. Did you play your best match? Did you give 100%? If you didn't, why not? So those are kind of some of the fundamentals that we've implemented. And he, the one thing about TJ, I'll say, he works harder than any kid I know, and he wants it more than any kid I know. He's not the most gifted. He's not the most talented. I'll be the first to say it, but he wants it. And so he's easy to coach, where some kids have all the talent in the world, but you see them burn out because they don't have some of this mental preparation. They're not ready for when they fail.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part that you said there at the end about TJ wants it. I think that everything that you're saying is great stuff, all the breath work, working on your mental game. But at the end of the day, if you don't want it, it's not going to make a difference for you, really. Where do you think that comes from in TJ, that desire and fire he has?
That's a good question. And if I could answer it, I wish I could. My wife and I talk about it all the time. He is the kid that we have to take off the court because he will literally play too much versus, most kids, they go to practice, they want to get off the court. TJ has never once complained about going to a training. He gets excited. So I don't know, man. He fell in love with it. In fact, if my wife were to be on this right now, she would say she never wanted TJ to be a tennis player. She didn't want him to have that pressure. He absolutely loves it, and he loves the game more than almost anybody I work with. He loves tennis more than anything I've seen somebody love. He's just obsessed with it. So it's just been cool to watch him grow and continue to get better. Fail most of the time, right? That's the hard part about tennis. You're going to fail far more than you're ever going to succeed or win tournaments. Only one kid is going to win that tournament out of 64. So 63 kids are going to lose, but most people don't think about that. Most people don't prepare their kids to know, like, hey, that's okay to lose. You're going to lose more often than you win. So
what do you talk to, or when you talk to TJ, what things are you going over in reference to the actual match preparation? What do you work with him on in terms of expectations when he's stepping on the court? What kind of things are you helping him with there?
So the big thing that we've been working on is, are you focused on the outcome, or are you focused on just that shot? Most of the time, the challenge is, especially if they're playing somebody that's a lower UTR or player they should win, he's starting to think about winning and the outcome. Well, the problem is when you do that, you start to lose focus and you don't play your best. So when we get prepared for every match, and when I say when I'm talking to him prior to a match, did you do your warm-up? Have you done your meditation? Have you journaled? Do you have a game plan? None of that stuff I'm doing. His coach and he have the game plan. And my last thing to him is, hey, bud, go have a great time. Play every point to the best of your ability and forget about the outcome. When he lets go, when he's loose and has fun, he wins more often. When he gets tight, and every tennis parent knows what I'm talking about, when they get tight, they don't play well. They end up having the emotional breakdown. So my main focus with him is just focus on every point, not the overall outcome.
I think that's a tremendous approach to the game, and especially when you're on the junior circuit, you're playing so many tournaments, and it's tough to go and not win every single time. So I think thinking about each match that way is probably a great way to do it.
Well, here's the beauty for that. In life, you're going to lose a lot. And are you prepared to? Why I think I got into the mindset coaching. I grew up with some amazing athletes that went high levels of the NFL. Like 6 kids I knew went to the NFL. One of them had never really experienced failure until he got to the NFL. And it destroyed him, man. Like, he was the best in high school, the best in college, literally got drafted number 2 in the NFL draft, and then completely collapsed because he finally had failure for his first time. The one blessing I'll say these tennis kids have, they've experienced failure time and time again. And that's where you see real growth. It's not when you're winning. You're not learning a ton when you're winning tournament after tournament. You're probably doing the same stuff over and over. When you get challenged and you lose, that's when you can look and say, okay, what can I improve on? So it's something that TJ and I talk about frequently about, all right, how did you do? Did you give 100%? Was there any reason that you didn't perform at your best? And if he can answer it honestly and gave 100%, he's done a great job.
I think that's a very cool thing to consider, is analyzing your matches after each match. Taking a second and going over those things. How did I perform? Did I give it my best? And those little things, thinking about them so frequently, will make a big impact in your game overall, for sure.
Well, and give them time. I've made the mistake of talking to them right after the match when you're emotional. Well, when you're emotional, you're not making a lot of sense. You're talking about, it's never a clear sense of what happened in the match. Give it 5 minutes. Give it a half hour. Don't be right on your kid to be like, hey, what'd you do right? This is what you did wrong. And I've made that mistake, and it went poorly. But once he's calmed down, hey, are you ready to talk about the match and how you did? Did you give 100%? Was there anything else going on? When he's calm, we can have a real conversation. He can really develop further. But often in the moment, emotionally, it's going to be a train wreck. So that's one of our rules is like, hey, I'll talk to you about it, but you need 5 minutes. This was a big match you lost. Give yourself a half hour. Just go be a kid for a minute, and we'll talk about it when you get back.
That's great. I would love to hear your thoughts on in those moments when things aren't going great, how can you get things back on track?
For the players' sake?
For players. When you're working with TJ as a junior tennis player, any athlete, when they find that they're in a situation that's not going right for them, to stop that vortex going down, what do you have for that?
This is a brilliant question, by the way, because everybody's going to face it. And breathing is one of the biggest things I teach TJ. Like, literally, there's ways to calm your nervous system just through breathing. So he has his own system where he, breathes through the nose, out through the mouth. We might do box breathing, which look that up if people are interested. But that's all about calming the nervous system. But really having something that when things go wrong, what is your system? Do you turn away to the fence? Do you scream into a towel? Do you give yourself that moment to slap your leg? Whatever it is, because each kid's going to be different. For TJ, he does the breathing. And then on the changeover, I always give him a card of the 3 things that he really wants to focus on. If the match is going well, these are the 3 things to focus on. On the backside, if the match is going poorly, here's probably why they are. For him, when he's using his legs really well, he plays incredible. Well, the problem is when he gets emotional, he stops using his legs. Now it's all this arm swing. Well, he's not playing well, so it's one of the things on his card is to stay low, use his legs. When he does that, he gets back on track pretty quickly. So maybe he was emotional for a game, but on the changeover, he can look at his card and go, I forgot about this.
That card strategy is really cool. How did you develop that, and how much are you involved in the process of identifying those points and everything like that?
Yeah, so I used something. It was actually a sports psychologist that worked with Major League Baseball players and pitchers. That's where I started, and it's very basic. It's slow down, breathe, be confident, and focus. That's like the 4 words that would go back. That's where we started. Then I started talking to TJ and his coaches about, does that make sense? And it did in the beginning, but now he's got his own process of slowing down and breathing. So now they developed the strategy, but my main thing is keeping it simple, because when you're ultimately every athlete's looking to be in flow. And when you're in flow, you're not thinking. You are literally you're reacting to the moment, and you're actually not fighting. You're just flowing with what's happening. So that's really what he's trying to find every match. And you'll notice, even when you watch pro matches, you'll hear them. He's trying to get into the flow of the match, which means he's trying to stop thinking, or he or she is trying to stop thinking about what's happening in the moment. So really that's what TJ is trying to do, is have that dynamic warm up so that you get into the flow of the match game 1 and stay, in it as much as possible, because ultimately you don't want to be thinking about the shot you just missed. You don't want to think about how I'm going to win the match. You just want to stay in the present moment. And the best players in the world, just like we saw with Alcaraz versus Djokovic, we watched a 20-year-old kid literally win that match because of his mindset. It was not because he was the better physical athlete out there. Djokovic is in incredible shape. The 20-year-old kid literally beat Djokovic because of mindset, and you could see it the moment Djokovic slammed his racket against the post. You knew it was done. Alcaraz won the match, and that was fascinating for me to watch as a mindset coach, to be like, that 20-year-old kid is acting more mature, is in more control of his emotions, and hence won the match. That is one of the best examples recently that I can think of where, wow, that kid has put in the work mentally, not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah, 100%. And I think an important piece in that Alcaraz match that many people maybe don't pick up on so much, but clearly you do, is body language. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about what you preach to TJ and all the other athletes you work with body language.
Especially in tennis, because it's a one-on-one or doubles, 2-on-2 game. The more that you show emotion to the opponent, you're giving them confidence, or perhaps you're taking away confidence. But the main thing I'm telling TJ is like, look, man, if you're saying, I can't hit a backhand, well, what do you think that kid's going to do? He's going to hit to your backhand every single time. But I watch juniors all the time. I suck. And I'm like, dude, A, you're just giving your opponent more confidence. B, you're telling the universe, I suck. Well, guess what? That's exactly how you're going to perform. And it's funny, there's the whole basic idea is you don't even have to stay positive. Just stay in this neutral state where you're not getting negative. You're just not outwardly saying, I suck, I can't hit these shots. And so what I've always told them with body language is you want to be in a powerful position. You want that chest back. You don't want to be hanging your head. It's hard to do in this chair, but you want to be in that power position to where you look confident versus hanging your head or acting like John McEnroe used to, okay? This guy won, I think, 8 Grand Slams, if I'm not mistaken. With his talent, it should have been 14, 15, 16. In my opinion, because he acted out so often, because he spent so much energy on the referees or his opponent or berating himself, had he taken that energy and applied it towards trying to beat Bjorn Borg or whoever he was playing at the time, he would have won that many more matches. So if you want to go back and see people that are great examples of what not to do, McEnroe's a great one. Even though he won 8 Grand Slams, if you talk to coaches, his hands are a gift from God. Literally, he has the most incredible hands. Even at his age now, they did a pickleball match, and it's like, dude, his hands are incredible. But his mental was never that great, and it hurt him in his career. So those are some of the examples I try to give TJ to be, look how much better you can be if you can just control your mindset. And that Alcaraz Djokovic was a great example for him.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect thing to look at is what not to do in some cases. It's easy to see what to do, but oftentimes realizing what not to do is a good thing to think about too.
Well, it's hard because our emotions happen faster than that by 1,000 times. So you're not going to stop your emotions from happening. Look, you hit a bad shot, you got upset. But how do you respond? If you react, throw your hands in the air, throw your racket. You see juniors throw their rackets all the time, which, by the way, it's a terrible idea. You're going to get a penalty. You're going to hurt your racket. It doesn't do anything. And you're giving your opponent confidence. Find a way to just say, all right, I missed a shot. So what? We're on to the next point. We're going to play the next shot to the best of my ability. I'm not saying it's easy to do because emotions happen so quickly, but that's why training the mindset is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the more interesting things that you pointed out to a little bit ago was kind of that natural highs and lows of a tennis match. And something that I thought was really interesting is you mentioned trying to stay neutral instead of, I think that the conventional thought is always be positive. So I'd love to expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so Swiatek would be a great example. You never see her get too high. You never see her get too low. And she's the #1 women's player in the world. She is even keel. If she hit a winner, you don't see her do much. Now, I would say if you want to show some emotion, that little fist pump, it's a great idea. Like just, yes, let's go. Keep it going. But you're also expending some energy. So what I'm as best I can just to avoid the negatives, because the more that you say negative stuff, it's going to show up in your life. And there's studies on this where when you say something out loud negative, 90% more likely to happen than if you say something positive out loud. So that's where if you can stay neutral or just never show the negative side, you're going to see the payoffs far greater than if you're trying to ride those emotionals, the highs and lows. You're just expanding a lot of energy. And again, going back to an old pro, Ivan Lendl was the #1 player in the world, and they will tell you he was one of the least talented. The reason he was so good, every changeover, he did the exact same thing. He didn't expend any extra energy on the bench. He was totally focused, had his own card, what he was going to do. He was so disciplined. And one of the things I teach is discipline equals freedom. Well, he had so much discipline, it allowed him to be free out on that court and just go play his game.
I think that's really cool. And if you have access to YouTube in the 21st century, we all do, go watch some tape and check that out and see his body language and what he was like in the changeovers. I would love to hear a little bit more about the mindset approach that you help TJ take during training. We're talking a lot about match days, about competition, but where's his head at when he's training and getting ready for those opportunities?
Yeah, this is where I think a lot of juniors miss it because they don't give 100% to their practice. And I understand it's hard to give always 100%, but I would rather him not practice if he's not, because you're just creating bad habits. And you've seen it all the time where you're kind of messing around, hitting different shots. Well, cool if you're hitting different shots, but are you giving 100% to that? So what I've told him is, look, I believe in quality over quantity. You go out and hit 10,000 balls, but if you hit 10,000 of them poorly, you're just creating a bad habit. I'd rather you go out and hit 1,000 balls and hit them with precision, quality, just like you would in a match. So before he goes, it's just similar to playing a match. Warm up just like you're going to. Hit every shot with intention and purpose, not just to hit a shot, but rather, what are you trying to do with that shot? And the better kids that I've seen are able to apply that. And that's where you see some of these kids that don't do the 6 or 7 hours of the academy. It's because when they are training, let's say they do 2 hours a day, they're doing 2 hours of solid work, really quality work, versus just pounding balls one after another.
I think that's a very good point. I had an old coach who would say practice without purpose is pointless. And I think that I probably see that a lot when I go to these demo days and get on boots on the ground at the academies. And you see kids are just kind of out there just hitting around. So I think having a more focused approach to your training is huge and can make a big difference for you.
I mean, it's true in everything we do, right? What is your purpose? What's your intention? Why are you doing it? And if you're clear on that, you're going to get that much more out of your practice. One of TJ's coaches back in California, he would have him every practice go in with an intention. What are you going to work on today? And then afterwards, just write about it. How did you do? Were you able to improve on whatever you were going in for? And it's amazing. When he does that, you'll see those jumps because, again, he's not going in there just to put in the time. He's very intentional, strategic about every shot. And that's where I've seen him grow the most, is when he's really clear on why he's out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've seen from the time he spent in California and came back that there's some improvements in his game for sure. And that's probably a lot due to that focused approach to preparation.
Well, and he does, that coach and he really bond. When you find a special relationship with a player and a coach, hang on to that because it doesn't happen often. And he does. When Amin is his name, he's a great, shout out to Amin Kaldi. He's amazing. But he and TJ just, for whatever reason, they clicked. And he does very well with some of his other coaches, but not quite the same as he and Amin. And that's what you see pros do all the time. You'll see them change coaches because they're looking for that synergy. They're looking to really match up and understand not only, okay, you're telling me to stay down on my forehand, but the coach, when they say that, it just resonates with the player. So with TJ, it just happens to be that way with Amin. When Amin says something, he just gets it, versus another coach might say the same thing. It just doesn't click the same way.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about your experience trying to find TJ coaches over the course of his career and all that kind of stuff, especially coming from someone that doesn't have a tennis background. Obviously, you've done a lot with him on the mental side, and I guess first, I know your wife played college tennis, so she has that background there. Was she able to kind of like take on the actual technique side of his game early on or anything like that?
So she actually decided early on she wanted to remove herself because she didn't want that to get in the way of their relationship. And I thought it was an awesome move because, look, our intention is to raise a good human being. It's not to be the greatest tennis player of all time. That's, as a parent, that's what we're trying to do. So to your first question with finding a coach, from a cultural value standpoint, where does this coach line up? Because there's some coaches, it's win at all costs. And unfortunately, that's where you see some of these kids that learn to cheat, on the lines, and they start hooking. And it's like, what are you teaching this kid at 12 years old that the only way to get ahead is to hook this player? We don't want that. We would rather TJ be, if it's close, play the ball. And if you lose a couple matches, that's okay, because from an integrity standpoint, we're teaching him that, look, it's not always going to go your way. And I would rather see you be a good human being and have a fulfilling life than be the greatest tennis player in the world, but be a complete jerk. So when we were looking for coaches, that was one of the big ones. And there was a coach when he first got to Florida. TJ's attitude at 14 went from being happy, loving tennis, to literally slamming rackets, throwing his hat. And we're going, what is going on? It's not just hormones. And then I went and watched his coach play, just a silly practice match. The same behaviors were happening by the coach. I'm not blaming the coach because my son was creating this himself, but this is the example that was being set for him. So it just wasn't a good fit. So when we go look for a coach, what are the values? What are you trying to teach our kid? Is it to be hardworking? Is it to be, honest? Is it to give every single point, every commitment to every shot? Yes, yes, and yes. Cool, man. You're our guy, or you're our gal, whatever the case is. But if you're win at all costs, I can tell you right now, it's not for me. There will come a time where TJ, go ahead and give it win at all costs. But even Alcaraz, number one player in the world, I've watched him overrule a call from an umpire that wasn't the automatic, take a point away from himself, save the guy a challenge, the number one player in the world. And when I saw that, I was like, this kid's going to do great. And he was 19 when he did it. Literally overturned a call against himself because it was the right thing to do. That's what I want TJ to be.
That's unbelievable. And there's a lot that I think goes into making those decisions for parents across the country, especially because oftentimes there's a big financial consideration that goes into paying a coach, paying an academy, all that kind of stuff. How do you guys kind of like weigh that out in terms of everything that you give TJ an opportunity to get better? You know what I mean? Because obviously that's your as a parent, you just want to see him do the best you can, but there's only so much you can do, Yeah,
we resisted him going full time for a long time because we just wanted him to be a normal kid. Just, go through, the dances and just be a normal kid. Spend a couple hours training, but he at 14 looked at us and he said, I want to go full time. I know this is what I want to do, and I'll commit 100% to every single day. And he's held up, because if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't commit 100%, we're going to take that back away. So that was when we made the decision to say, look, we're going to provide as much as we can as your parents, but you have to put in the work. So that was kind of our process of getting him into full time. And I've seen pros and cons with kids doing that, right? I've seen some of the most talented players literally burn out because they played too much. And that's where, again, going back to, do they love the game? TJ loves the game, so I'm not worried about him burning out. Although we do make sure that he takes time off. So every 4 months or whatever, let's take a week off, really repair the body, go be a kid and just rest the mind. I don't think that's talked enough about, because there's a lot of pressure on these guys and it's super competitive. But I would rather see him take time off, maybe not be at the highest UTR, going into college. Maybe doesn't get into the number one school in the country. That's okay if he continues to love the game and plays through, because I've watched so many kids be number one at 12, 14, 16, and you never see them even play college because they burnt out.
Yeah, you see it every year all across the country. That happens to the best players oftentimes, which is really sad. But like you keep mentioning, it comes down to the love of the game. I would love to hear a little bit more about the kind of like the schedule and structure, because I was going to ask you, because I knew TJ took some time off every now and then. Mm-hmm. But how do you guys balance the like heavy tournament load? Obviously, there's a lot of weekends, traveling, all that kind of stuff.
So I have to give credit to my wife on this in terms of the scheduling. She is really conscious of watching how many tournaments TJ plays. In fact, he had the rule where he could only do 2 tournaments a month so that he could rest the body, because that's the other thing that you start to see is injuries pile up. If kids are doing one tournament after another, you have to really make sure that you're checking in. How's the body feeling? Is it time to just take that break and rest and recuperate? So Lisa has it where 2 tournaments a month. I do think right now he's in the full recruiting swing, so he might do 3 tournaments a month until December. So that'll give him 4 months of 3 tournaments a month. But she's checking in on that. He takes off every Friday afternoon, so he's playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mornings, and then he takes off. And Friday afternoon he's off, and then the weekends, if he's not playing a tournament, there's no touching the tennis racket. We'll go play pickleball, maybe just go swim with your buddies, or just go be a kid, because the academy, they are putting in so much time already.
Yeah, I love that is your family's approach to the junior tennis grind, take some time off. How did you guys come across that? Or is that something that you've just always implemented, or have you tried other approaches and mixed it up? Or tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, well, Lisa, again, she saw so many great junior tennis players, like nationally ranked, top, never even playing college because of that burnout factor. That was really the start of it. Is we don't want our kids to burn out. If they want to play, great, but let's be smart about it. And so fortunately for them, we don't push them on this stuff. You're going to go perform as best you can. And that's, did you give 100%? Yes, I did. Okay, we're proud of you. I'm so proud of your effort. I don't talk about the results like I'm proud of you because you won this tournament. No, I'm proud of the effort that you put in. And that's basic growth mindset stuff that Carol Dweck talks about in her book, Mindset. And we've taken that approach where we're going to applaud the effort. We're going to applaud the commitment. But if you won the tournament or you lost the first 2 matches of the tournament, if you can look in the mirror and say, I gave it everything I got, I was 100% committed, then we're going to give you a hug and say we're proud of you as a parent. That's been our approach. And again, it goes back to we're trying to raise good human beings, not the best tennis player in the world, not the best baseball player in the world. If they end up being that, awesome. But that's not what we're trying to do with our kids.
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, everything that you've been saying, great approach for all that stuff. The elevated mindset and everything's big time. I would love to hear a little bit about your experience as a tennis parent who didn't grow up playing the sport, kind of going around to all these tournaments and everything. What's that like for you?
Well, I'm laughing because tennis is the only sport where the kids are all on their own. There's no referees out there. I mean, there's a floating one that you can call every once in a blue moon. So these kids are coaching themselves. There are no referees. So it's the hardest part for me as a parent is I will root for both kids. What's weird about that is I had a parent one time look at me and say, don't root for my kid. And I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and root for whoever I'd like. And just because your son and my son are playing each other, I want to see good tennis. So it's been interesting because there are some tennis parents that they're convinced their kid's going to be the next Alcaraz, and that's cool. But that doesn't mean that it's got to be this really, like a war out there, because it's not. These are kids trying their best at the sport they love. So it's been interesting to kind of see the different approaches that parents take. Lisa and myself, we just take an approach where we want to see great tennis. We want to see these kids give 100%, and we want it to be fair. The only time I've ever been discouraged is when TJ has lost matches because maybe somebody has, hooked or cheated. That's hard to watch as a parent to say, you lost, and maybe it wasn't because he was the better player today. But outside of that, man, we've met so many good families. The tennis, it's an amazing sport. In fact, I wish I did grow up playing it because my pickleball game would be better right now. But it's such a cool game. And I actually watch a ton of tennis. I don't play it, but I even as a kid, I've watched so much tennis growing up. So as a parent, to watch my kid go out there, give 100%, and it's all on him, right? There's nobody that's going to step in and save him. He's got to figure it out on his own. To me, that's life. Like, nobody's going to save you. You need to pick yourself up. You made a mistake, pick yourself back up. And that's what he's learning every single week. So I'm proud as a parent to watch him figure it out. I'm proud to watch him fall on his face and make the mistakes, but I'm even more proud to watch him pick himself back up.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's all about. That's what life's about, what tennis is about. I would love to talk a little bit more about the idea that always you see it all the time on the junior circuit. Someone hooks someone. If TJ loses on a call like that, for example, what are you saying to him? What's the advice that you're giving to him there?
Yeah, so we've had this conversation quite a bit. And the challenge is sometimes TJ wants to fall into the victim mindset where I lost that match because of this one call. That's not true. No match comes down to one call, so I'm clear. And that's what I tell him. I'm like, did you lose that because of that one point that was called against you? Yes, I did. No, you didn't. You allowed the match to get to that place. I'm not saying it was fair. The kid called the ball out and it was a foot in. Is that fair? No, but that's not why you lost the match. So what I've always tried to teach him is to take complete ownership. Don't be a victim, because when you go down being a victim, it's not a very powerful way to live. When you go down with full accountability that, you know what, I allowed it to get that close, that they were able to call that ball out and they won the match, look in the mirror. That's on you. It's not on them. Calls are going to go your way. Calls are going to not go your way. That's part of sports in general. So that's always been the approach we've taken. It's hard, though. I will say as a parent, when you know it's in, you want to just scream like, come on, man, that ball's in. But for the most part, I always just, hey, man, you let it get to that point, so you got to own it.
Yeah, I always like to take some solace in knowing that the opponent on the other side knows that he just did that. You know what I mean? And that's his character. So he has to live with that his whole life. As long as I know I left it all out there, I'm good. You know?
Yeah, and it will get to that point. Look, you can't get away with it in college, so it can take you so far. And that's what I've told him. I was like, look, bud, don't let it get to that point. So it's not easy. Look, hooking is one of those things that it's hard to watch, but it's going to happen, and you also need to learn how to deal with that. That's part of the mental preparation. You know that somebody has that reputation. Be prepared going in. Like, how are you going to deal with that adversity? So that's all stuff that we talk about prior to the matches.
I love that. It's also a very exciting time for TJ right now with the college recruiting action going on, heading into his final high school year and doing really, really good things on the court. How's that process been like for you?
It's been interesting because it's such a different process than how I went through recruiting. They have it way more dialed in now. I will say that. We have a whole group that helps him with this. It's been exciting to see, is he going to end up at Boston, or there's a school in Philadelphia, Villanova is looking at him. There's a couple schools in North Carolina, South Carolina. So as a dad, it's hard to say, gosh, my kid's going to go away, but I'm watching my boy go from being a boy to a man. And it's just exciting to see him talking about what majors he wants to do, why he wants to go to these colleges, and really how he interacts with the coaches. And one of the things I'm proud of to say is there was a school that they were recruiting pretty heavy, but he didn't like the coach. And he's like, I don't like what that coach stands for. I'm not even considering it. It was a proud dad moment because I don't want my kid to go there and be miserable. Trust me, playing sports in college is a full-time job. So you want to like the coach. You want to like the culture of the team. Don't just go because they're giving you the best offer. If you don't get along with that coach, don't go. And I'm watching TJ go through that right now.
Yeah, that's very nuanced, and it's really all about relationship building at the end of the day. But before we get more in depth on that, let's talk a little bit about when TJ was coming up in juniors and everything. Was the goal to play college tennis, or is that something that he's just found himself in the opportunity to be able to do that?
Yeah, it was for him. So he was 11 when he started playing tournaments. So he started pretty late. And that was by design with Lisa because she didn't want him doing tennis. And at 11, he looked at me, he said, I'm going to play college tennis. And I said, all right, cool, man. I'll support you any way I can. And every year I have my kids write down their goals and put them in their bathroom mirror. So play Division I tennis is really TJ's goal. He's got his UTR goal to get to a 12 by December 31st of this year. So he's very clear on what he's trying to do. But yeah, for him, he knew he wanted to play college tennis. He knew it was something. He thrives in that team atmosphere, which is so funny playing an individual sport. He really likes being on a team. And so at his academy, they'll have these days where they play as a team like college. And I've watched my boy play some of his best tennis in those moments because he feeds off the momentum and the atmosphere is so much different. So I can see him thriving in college because of that atmosphere, because he's playing for more than just himself. That's why he loves playing doubles so much, because he's got someone else that he can win and or lose with, and he just thrives off that momentum. But to answer your question, it started pretty early. He told us at 11, I'm going to play college tennis, and all right, man, we'll support you.
Yeah, that's really cool. One of the best experiences I had this year at the courts was in the NCAA National Championship up in Orlando, and just seeing that team atmosphere and the energy that everybody was bringing was absolutely electric. So I think it's really great that TJ will embrace that culture and everything. When he's going through this process, is he one of the guys that's kind of on the D1 or bust mindset, or is he open to looking at some of those like smaller schools that might be a different culture?
He's pretty much D1 or bust, but we've asked him to keep an open mind, because some of these schools, there was a D3 school, I can't remember the name right now, but it was academically, I mean, wow. It's one of those schools where you would love for your child to go to. Ultimately, what we've chosen with him is, look, you get to make this decision. You're 17, going to turn 18. You're becoming an adult. So we're going to really give you the freedom. Trust me, I want him to be right here at FAU, close to me, where I get to go see him all the time. But I want him to make the decision that he's going to go play in, South Carolina. So he's pretty much been D1 or bust. But I think if the right opportunity came, if it didn't make sense at D1, he just wants to play tennis, man.
Yeah, exactly. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of great opportunities at smaller level schools that are potentially better culture fits for players. And one of the coaches that I used to have would always, in the recruiting process, say it's 4 for 40. So it's 4 years for the next 40 years of your life. So it's cool to see that TJ's thinking a little bit about that kind of stuff too. It's what the culture will be like, what the atmosphere will be like, and hopefully what he'll be able to major in and then ultimately have a career with. What's he thinking about there?
Sports management is what he said. He really, I think sports agent is kind of where he wants to go. Well, of course, he wants to play professional tennis. That's number one for him. That's his next. Once he goes to college, that's what he wants to do. But sports management is really what he's been looking at. But it's been interesting, man. He really is basing it off of coaches, where he's like, I have a real kinship with this coach. We're definitely vibing with each other. Cool, man, because I had an amazing college coach. I love my coach. My wife had an amazing college coach as well. And it makes the experience so much different. Like my high school coach, I didn't get along with him that well, man. And it made high school basketball pretty rough. But my college coach, amazing, man. And so I think TJ's heard us talk about that over the years. And maybe that's why he's putting so much into it. But it's going to be fun to watch wherever he ends up.
100%. How hands-on are you and Lisa in the conversations and all that kind of stuff? Do you guys sit with him and help him get prepared? Are you in on the calls? Tell me a little bit about how that process is going.
So I started in on the calls initially, and then really gave him the fundamentals of like, hey, make sure you approach it this way. And then I watched him really take it and put his own spin on it. So now I've backed off and just said, look, make sure you're respectful. Make sure when colleges reach out to you that you get back to them, even if you don't want to go there. He goes, well, why? I don't want to go there. Well, how does it feel to you if you want to go there and they don't reach out to you? You're wondering. You don't feel good about it. That's the crappy part about some of the recruiting is just show the other person respect. They showed enough interest in you to reach out. Give them the common courtesy to at least say, you know what, thank you so much. I don't know that this is a good fit, but I really appreciate the interest. And so that's really what we've been working on with him, is to stay in communication with these coaches, be respectful, and if it's not a great fit, let them know, so they're not waiting thinking you're leading them on to go to that school when you know there's no chance that you're going to go to some school in Alaska, for say. I don't see TJ going there. So I've asked him to be respectful and be, communicative, communicate well back with them, let them know, like, yes, I want to do this, or, it's just not a great fit, but thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's great for any junior player, parents out there to consider, is not closing the doors when you're talking to the college coaches, and keeping the communication open and being honest. And if you're able to do that through the process, because you never know what's going to happen, something the coach at the school TJ goes to might leave and go to another school, and then TJ wants to transfer. And if he was respectful to all the coaches and that opportunity happens, he'll be in a good position.
I don't think most parents realize what you said, how important it is. It is a very, very small world. And I know that across the country, however many schools there are, that tennis world shrinks even more. So to your point, coaches change all the time. They're going to different universities. So just basic common courtesy, because it does change frequently.
All right, JM. So obviously you're a wealth of knowledge here, and you have your own podcast. You have some books published, a lot of other action. You do the coaching. How do people reach out to you? How can they get all the info that you have to offer?
Yeah, thank you, brother. Let's Go Win podcast. Evan, the owner here, he was actually on one of the podcast episodes. He was awesome. Let'sGoWin.com if you want any of the books or some of the stuff I work on. So Let's Go Win that's what my brand is, and that's what I represent. So I appreciate that. And anybody that's looking for any of the performance leadership mindset, I'm passionate about it, and it's something that if I can help, I'm happy to.
Oh, yeah, and I see it pay off with your son TJ every day. He's getting better and better on the court and off the court. So it's been an absolute pleasure sitting down with you today. I wish we had more time, because I feel like there's so much more that we could cover. So maybe we'll have to bring you back in the future and we can talk some more mindset stuff. But
anything I can do to support, brother, I appreciate you, man. It was awesome.
I'm so excited that JM was able to take some time out of his day, which obviously is hectic. He's doing the coaching business, and he's also a tennis parent. So everybody out there who's doing the tennis parent thing knows what he's going through. So special thanks to JM. Hopefully you were able to find some value in today's conversation. And if you were, I'm sure JM would love if you shared this video with anybody in your network that could benefit from the conversation today. Shoot them a DM. We're going to keep producing these Courtside Sessions episodes, and we would love to feature more top stories from across the country. So if you have one, or you know somebody that does, that a junior tennis player, parent, or coach could benefit from, let us know so we could feature you on the pod. Don't forget to subscribe and follow along so you can stay up to date with all the Courtside Sessions action that's coming your way. I'm Diadem Kev, and I'm excited for everything we have going in the future for this project, so stay tuned. As always, big shout out to our production team who works tirelessly to produce these episodes, with a special thank you to Colin McDowell for all the energy and effort and countless amount of time that he's put forward in making this possible. We have many more Courtside Sessions coming your way. I'm Diadem Kev, and I can't wait to see you guys next time.